Marcus sat alone in the corner of the cafeteria, his lunch tray untouched. At 18 years old and carrying 240 pounds on his frame, he had become invisible to most students at Lincoln High. Not invisible in the way that granted peace, but invisible in the way that made him a ghost until someone needed a target. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as laughter erupted from the popular table across the room. Marcus didn't need to look up to know they were laughing at him. He could feel it in his bones, the way you feel rain coming before the first drop falls. "Hey, Marcus," a voice called out. It was Derek, captain of the basketball team, his smile sharp as broken glass. "My grandma's looking for a new couch. You available?" The cafeteria exploded with laughter. Marcus felt his face burn, his hands trembling as he gripped his fork. This was his life now. Every single day, the same cruelty dressed in different words. But there was one person who made it all bearable. Her name was Isabella. Isabella Chen was everything Marcus thought he could never have. She had transferred to Lincoln High at the beginning of senior year, and from the moment she walked through those doors, she had commanded attention without demanding it. She was kind to the lunch staff, helped freshmen find their classes, and had a laugh that sounded like wind chimes on a summer evening. Marcus had fallen for her immediately, though he'd never dare speak to her. What would he say? What could someone like him possibly offer someone like her? Music shifts to hopeful melody. But then something miraculous happened. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Marcus found a note tucked into his locker. His heart hammered as he unfolded the paper, his hands shaking so badly he could barely read the elegant handwriting. "Marcus, I've noticed you around school. You seem really interesting, and I'd love to get to know you better. There's a gathering at my place this Saturday at 7 p.m. I really hope you can come, Isabella." An address was written at the bottom. Marcus read the note 7 times, convinced it was a mistake. But his name was right there at the top. Isabella Chen, the girl who occupied every corner of his daydreams, had invited him to her house. For the first time in months, Marcus smiled a smile that reached his eyes. The next 3 days passed in a blur of nervous energy. Marcus couldn't focus in class, couldn't sleep at night. His mind raced with possibilities. What would he wear? What would he say? What if this was the moment everything changed? His best friend, Jordan, was the first person he told. Jordan had been Marcus's friend since elementary school, back when Marcus's weight hadn't mattered, back when kids judged you by whether you could swing high on the playground, not by how you looked. "Man, that's amazing," Jordan said, genuinely happy for his friend. They were sitting in Jordan's basement, controllers in hand, though the video game was paused. "Isabella's really cool. Maybe she sees what everyone else is too shallow to notice." Marcus wanted to believe that. He desperately wanted to believe that someone could see past his appearance to the person underneath. The person who wrote poetry in secret, who volunteered at the animal shelter every weekend, who dreamed of becoming an architect and designing buildings that made people feel hopeful. "I need to make a good impression," Marcus said, his voice tight with anxiety. "I need everything to be perfect." Jordan nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, let's think this through. What do you need?" Marcus had made a list. He needed a good outfit, something that would make him look put together. He needed transportation, something better than his mom's old sedan with the dent in the passenger door. And he wanted to bring a gift, something that would show Isabella how much this meant to him. The outfit was first. Marcus's mom took him to the mall that Thursday evening. They wandered through store after store, Marcus growing more discouraged with each shop. Nothing fit right, everything either pulled too tight across his chest or hung like a tent. Finally, at a store in the far corner of the mall, they found it. A deep navy suit that actually fit, that made Marcus look dignified instead of desperate. It wasn't cheap. The price tag made his mom wince, but she saw the hope in her son's eyes and pulled out her credit card without complaint. "You look handsome, baby," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Marcus hugged her, feeling like maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. The car was trickier. Marcus didn't want to show up in his mom's old Honda. He wanted to arrive in something that would make Isabella smile, that would show he'd made an effort. So he did something reckless. He went to a luxury car rental place downtown. "I need a car for Saturday night," Marcus told the man behind the counter. The rental agent looked him up and down, skepticism clear on his face. "We require a deposit and full payment up front," the man said. "Our weekend rate for a luxury sedan is $1,200. Marcus's stomach dropped. $1,200. He had maybe $300 in his savings account, money from birthdays and odd jobs. But Jordan came through, and so did Marcus's cousin, Tyler. Between the three of them, they scraped together enough. "You sure about this?" Tyler asked as they handed over the cash. "That's a lot of money, man." "I'm sure," Marcus said, though his hands were sweating. "This is important." The gift was last. Marcus wanted something meaningful, something that would show Isabella he'd paid attention. He'd noticed her wearing a delicate silver bracelet with a small compass charm. When he asked around, he learned she loved vintage jewelry. He found the perfect piece at an antique store. A vintage silver necklace with a small locket, beautifully crafted. It cost $400. Money Marcus didn't have, so he borrowed more. From Tyler, from Jordan, from his older brother who was home from college. Each time, the weight of debt grew heavier, but Marcus pushed the worry aside. This was an investment in his future. In happiness. In the chance that someone might finally see him as worthy of love. Music builds with anticipation. Saturday arrived like a sunrise after the longest night. Marcus woke up at 6 in the morning, though the party wasn't until 7 that evening. He couldn't eat breakfast. His stomach was a knot of nerves and excitement. He spent the day preparing. He showered twice, styled his hair 14 different ways, practiced conversations in the mirror until the words sounded natural instead of rehearsed. His mom pressed his new suit, the iron hissing steam as she worked out every wrinkle. "You nervous?" she asked, glancing up at him. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. She smiled. "That means it matters. Just be yourself, baby. Anyone who can't see how special you are isn't worth your time." Marcus nodded, but he didn't quite believe her. Being himself hadn't worked out so well for him at school. But maybe tonight would be different. Maybe Isabella saw something others missed. At 6:30, Marcus put on his suit. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. In the navy suit, with his hair finally cooperating, he looked almost confident. Almost like someone who belonged at a party with the beautiful Isabella Chen. The rental car was waiting outside, a sleek silver Mercedes that gleamed under the streetlights. Marcus's hands shook as he gripped the steering wheel. The gift was wrapped in silver paper in the passenger seat, the address to Isabella's house programmed into his phone. "You've got this," Marcus whispered to himself as he started the engine. The car purred to life, smooth and powerful, so different from his mom's old Honda. As he drove through the twilight streets toward Isabella's neighborhood, Marcus allowed himself to hope. To dream. Maybe tonight was the beginning of something beautiful. Maybe he'd look back on this moment years from now and laugh about how nervous he'd been before meeting the love of his life. The houses grew larger as he drove, transforming from modest middle-class homes to sprawling estates with manicured lawns and iron gates. Isabella's house was at the end of a cul-de-sac, a modern masterpiece of glass and stone that probably cost more than Marcus's entire neighborhood combined. Cars lined the street, music thumped from inside the house, bass so heavy Marcus could feel it in his chest. Through the windows, he could see silhouettes moving, dancing, laughing. Marcus parked the Mercedes, took a deep breath, and picked up the wrapped gift. His reflection in the car window looked brave. He clung to that image as he walked up the stone pathway to the front door. This was it, the moment that would change everything. He had no idea how right he was. Marcus's finger hovered over the doorbell for what felt like an eternity. He could hear the party inside, the laughter and music creating a wall of sound that both invited and intimidated. Finally, he pressed the button. Chimes echoed inside, barely audible over the party noise. A moment later, the door swung open, and there stood Isabella. She was wearing a stunning red dress that made her look like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Her hair was swept up elegantly, and her smile was dazzling. "Marcus," she exclaimed, her eyes widening. "You came. I'm so glad. I wouldn't miss it," Marcus managed, his voice cracking slightly. He thrust the wrapped gift toward her. I brought you something." Isabella's eyes sparkled as she took the package. "You didn't have to do that. Come in, come in." She grabbed his hand, her touch sending electricity through Marcus's entire body, and pulled him inside. The house was even more impressive on the inside, all modern art and designer furniture. Students from school were everywhere, clustered in groups, dancing in the living room, hanging out by the pool visible through the back windows. Marcus recognized most of them. Derek, the basketball captain who'd made the couch joke, was standing near the kitchen with his girlfriend. Sarah Martinez, student body president, was laughing with a group near the stairs. This wasn't just any party. This was a party for the popular kids, the ones who existed in a different stratosphere than Marcus. What was he doing here? Everyone, Isabella called out, her voice cutting through the music. The room began to quiet, people turning to look. This is Marcus. Some of you might know him from school. A few people waved. Most just stared. Marcus felt like a specimen under a microscope, every flaw magnified. Let me open your gift, Isabella said, her enthusiasm seeming genuine. She carefully unwrapped the silver paper, and when she opened the box, her mouth formed a perfect O of surprise. Marcus, this is beautiful. This must have cost you a fortune. I wanted you to have something special, Marcus said, the words tumbling out. I noticed you like vintage jewelry, and I thought, it's perfect, Isabella interrupted, pulling out the necklace and holding it up to the light. The silver caught the chandelier's glow, the locket spinning gently. Will you help me put it on? Marcus's hands trembled as he fastened the clasp around her neck. He was close enough to smell her perfume, something floral and expensive. For a moment, everything felt surreal, like he'd stepped into someone else's life. How do I look? Isabella asked, turning to face him. Beautiful, Marcus breathed, and then Isabella laughed. It wasn't a polite laugh or a shy giggle. It was loud, sharp, and cruel. The kind of laugh that cuts through hope like a knife through silk. Marcus froze. What's funny? Music becomes discordant, unsettling. Isabella's laughter grew louder, and suddenly, her best friend Chloe appeared beside her, doubling over with laughter. Then Derek joined in, then Sarah, then the entire room erupted in laughter so vicious it seemed to shake the walls. Oh my God, Isabella gasped between laughs, tears streaming down her face. Your face. You actually believed it. Marcus's world tilted. Believed what? Isabella straightened up, wiping her eyes, her smile now venomous. That I would actually be interested in you. Marcus, come on, look at yourself, look at me. Did you really think this was real? The words hit Marcus like physical blows. His vision blurred at the edges, his breath catching in his throat. It was a bet, Chloe announced, her voice carrying across the now silent room. Everyone was watching, phones out, recording. We bet Isabella she couldn't get the ugliest guy in school to come to her party and actually think she liked him. And you fell for it completely, Isabella added, her laughter returning. The note, the invitation, all of it. You were so easy. Marcus tried to speak, but no words came out. His mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. And this gift, Isabella continued, holding up the necklace before tossing it carelessly onto a nearby table. Thanks, I guess, though I don't really wear cheap stuff. But hey, A for effort. The laughter intensified. Marcus could hear comments being thrown around the room. Did you see his face? I can't believe he actually rented that car outside. Dude probably spent his whole savings. Worth it for this content. Then, like a nightmare crescendoing, someone new stepped forward from the crowd. Ethan Bradley, football star and the school's golden boy. He was 6'3", jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and he walked with the confidence of someone who'd never been rejected in his life. Ethan draped his arm around Isabella's shoulders and pulled her close, kissing her temple. Hey, babe, are we done here, Ethan? Marcus managed, his voice barely a whisper. Oh, right, Isabella said, leaning into Ethan. Marcus, this is my boyfriend. Has been for the past 6 months. You didn't really think someone like me would be single, did you? Ethan looked Marcus up and down, his expression a mix of pity and disgust. Dude, seriously, you thought you had a shot? He laughed, shaking his head. Look at yourself. Then look at her. You thought you could afford someone like Isabella. You can barely afford to shop at the Gap. The room erupted again. Marcus felt something breaking inside him, something fundamental and irreparable. The car outside, Ethan continued, warming to his cruelty. That's a rental, isn't it? I can tell by the barcode sticker in the window. How much did that set you back? Let me guess, you borrowed money for it. Maybe from your friends. That's pathetic, man. You can't fake being someone you're not. Marcus's eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. Not here, not in front of them. This has been fun, Isabella said, her tone bored now, like she'd tired of a game. But seriously, Marcus, you should go. This party is for people who, you know, actually belong here. Yeah, Derek added from across the room. We have standards, man. Maybe try the chess club's parties. Oh wait, they probably have standards too. The laughter was deafening now. Marcus could see phones everywhere, all pointed at him, capturing his humiliation for posterity. By tomorrow, this would be all over social media. Everyone would see him at his lowest, his most vulnerable, his most foolish. He'd actually believed someone could see past his appearance to the person underneath. How stupid could he be? Marcus tried to speak, but his voice cracked. He cleared his throat and tried again. I should go. Yeah, you should, Isabella agreed. Then, as he turned to leave, she called out one more time. Hey, Marcus. He stopped, a tiny part of him hoping she'd say this was all a joke, that the real party was about to begin, that humanity wasn't actually this cruel. Thanks for the necklace. I'll sell it and buy something actually nice. That was the moment something inside Marcus didn't just break. It shattered into so many pieces he knew he'd never find them all. He walked toward the door, each step feeling like walking through concrete. Behind him, he could hear them already moving on, the music cranking back up, the laughter fading into party chatter. He'd been a brief entertainment, a momentary distraction, and now he was less than a memory. Marcus made it to the Mercedes before the first sob escaped. He sat in the driver's seat, this car he couldn't afford, wearing this suit he couldn't afford, carrying debt he couldn't pay back, and he finally let himself cry. Not quiet tears, but the kind of crying that shakes your whole body, that comes from somewhere so deep you didn't know it existed. His phone buzzed. Notifications. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. He didn't need to look to know what they were. Videos of his humiliation, already going viral. He was tagged in a post. Against his better judgment, he looked. The caption read, "When you think you're the main character but you're really just the punchline." The video had been viewed 15,000 times. In 20 minutes, comments flooded in. OMG, I'm dying. This is so savage I can't even. Bro really thought he had a chance. This is why you stay in your lane. Marcus threw his phone onto the passenger seat. He started the engine, but he couldn't drive yet. His hands were shaking too badly, and tears kept blurring his vision. Music becomes darker, more ominous. As he sat there in the darkness, something began to change inside Marcus. The grief was still there, but underneath it, something else was growing. Something hot and sharp and dangerous. Anger, pure, crystallized rage. They'd humiliated him, mocked him, made him the punchline of a joke that would follow him for the rest of his life. Isabella, Ethan, Chloe, Derek, all of them. They'd taken his vulnerability, his hope, his foolish belief in human decency, and they'd crushed it under their designer shoes while recording it for entertainment. Marcus wiped his eyes, his jaw clenching. His reflection in the rearview mirror looked different. The softness was gone, replaced by something harder. Something capable of terrible things. They're going to pay, Marcus whispered to his reflection. I swear on everything, they're going to pay for this. He didn't know how yet. Didn't know when. But as he finally drove away from Isabella's house, leaving his innocence and hope behind, Marcus made himself a promise. Revenge wasn't just an option. It was inevitable, and it would be spectacular. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us create more content like this. Drop a comment below telling us what you think Marcus should do next. Marcus didn't go home that night. He couldn't face his mother, couldn't stand the thought of her asking how the party went, couldn't bear to see the hope in her eyes that would turn to heartbreak when she learned the truth. Instead, he drove, miles and miles through the city streets, the Mercedes eating up asphalt as the night deepened around him. The gas gauge dipped lower and lower, but Marcus didn't care. The car wasn't his anyway. Nothing was his. Not dignity, not hope, not a future unburdened by this moment. Around 3 in the morning, he finally pulled into a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town. The kind of place where truckers and insomniacs gathered, where the coffee was terrible and the pie was worse, but where at least no one would know his face. Not yet, anyway. Marcus slid into a corner booth, his suit jacket finally removed, his tie loosened. A waitress with tired eyes and a name tag that read, Deb, took his order without really looking at him. Coffee, black. He didn't think he could stomach food. His phone sat on the table like a live grenade. He'd turned off all notifications, but he could feel it vibrating constantly. Messages, tags, comments, shares. His humiliation spreading like a virus through the social media ecosystem. Finally, he couldn't resist anymore. He picked up the phone. The main video from Isabella's party had been viewed over 500,000 times. 500,000 people had watched him get his heart torn out. The video had been reposted, remixed, turned into memes. His face was everywhere. Fat guy thinks he has a chance compilation. When delusion meets reality, this is what happens when you don't know your place. Comments upon comments upon comments. Thousands of strangers laughing at him, judging him, reducing his entire existence to a punchline. But there were other comments too. Scattered among the cruelty, a different kind of message emerged. This is actually really messed up. That girl is a monster. Imagine being so insecure you have to humiliate someone for a bet. I don't care what anyone looks like. This is bullying, plain and simple. I've been that guy. This broke my heart to watch. Marcus stared at those comments, reading them over and over. Some people saw it, some people understood that what happened wasn't funny, wasn't deserved, wasn't okay. But it didn't matter, because the laugh track was louder than the defense. The cruelty drowned out the compassion. And tomorrow, he'd still have to go to school and face everyone who'd seen that video. Tomorrow, school. Marcus's stomach turned. He couldn't do it. He couldn't walk those hallways, sit in those classrooms, eat in that cafeteria. Not after this. Not with everyone knowing, everyone having seen. The coffee grew cold in front of him as Marcus sat there, his mind spiraling. How long would this last? Weeks? Months? Would he be the guy from that video for the rest of high school? For the rest of his life? His phone buzzed again. This time, it was Jordan calling. Marcus let it ring, then ring again. On the third call, he finally answered. "Where are you?" Jordan's voice was tight with worry. "Your mom called me, said you're not home." "Marcus, what happened?" He paused. "I saw the video. Man, I'm so sorry." "Don't," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "Just don't. Come over to my place. You can stay here. We'll figure this out." "There's nothing to figure out, Jordan. It's already done. I'm done. Don't talk like that. Come on, man, you're stronger than this." Marcus laughed, bitter and broken. "Am I? Because I don't feel strong. I feel like the biggest idiot who ever lived." "You're not an idiot. They're the monsters. Isabella, Ethan, all of them. What they did was cruel and evil and I fell for it." Marcus interrupted. "That's what everyone will remember. Not that they were cruel, but that I was stupid enough to believe someone like her could want someone like me." "Marcus, I have to go." Marcus hung up. He sat in that diner until dawn began to break, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that felt like an insult. The world had no right to be beautiful when his entire life had imploded. Finally, as the breakfast crowd started to trickle in, Marcus paid his bill and left. He returned the Mercedes, enduring the judgmental look from the rental agent who clearly recognized him from the viral video. The man didn't say anything, but his smirk said enough. Marcus took a cab home, watching his neighborhood roll past the window. Normal Saturday morning, people walking dogs, washing cars, living their lives completely unaware that Marcus's world had ended. His mother was in the kitchen when he walked in. She took one look at his face and pulled him into a hug so tight he could barely breathe. "Baby," she whispered, tears in her voice. "I saw, everyone saw. I'm so sorry." Marcus stood rigid in her embrace. If he let himself feel her comfort, he'd break again, and he couldn't afford to break. Not now. Now, he needed to be hard, cold, focused. "I'm not going back," Marcus said when she finally released him. "To school, Marcus, you have to." "I'm not going back," he repeated, his voice firm. "Not Monday. Not ever. I can't." His mother's face crumpled. "We'll figure something out. Maybe we can transfer you to another school, or do online classes, or..." "Just give me some time," Marcus said. "Please, I need time." He went up to his room and closed the door. The suit was thrown in the back of his closet, crumpled and forgotten. The debt he'd accumulated for the car, the gift, the outfit, it all seemed absurd now. Money he didn't have, spent on a fantasy that never existed. Marcus looked at himself in his bedroom mirror. The same person who'd felt almost confident in that suit hours ago. Now he just saw the guy from the video. The punchline, the cautionary tale. His laptop sat on his desk. Slowly, Marcus opened it and navigated to Isabella's social media profiles. She'd posted a photo from the party, her wearing the necklace he'd bought her, Ethan's arms wrapped around her. The caption read, "Best party ever. Some memories you'll never forget." The comments were full of people tagging him, laughing, sharing the video again and again. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. The anger that had started in the car was growing, spreading through his veins like poison. Or maybe like medicine. It was the only thing keeping him from falling completely apart. They thought this was funny. They thought he was a joke. They thought they could humiliate him and then just move on with their perfect lives while his lay in ruins. They were wrong. Music becomes darker, more intense. Marcus opened a new document on his laptop and began to type. Not a suicide note, like his mother probably feared. Not a goodbye, but a plan. He wrote down every name. Isabella, Ethan, Chloe, Derek, Sarah, every single person who'd laughed, who'd recorded, who'd shared. Every person who'd found joy in his pain. And then he started researching. Social media profiles, addresses, schedules, weaknesses, secrets. If the internet could be used to destroy him, it could be used to destroy them too. Marcus worked through Saturday night, through Sunday. He didn't eat, barely slept, just researched, planned, refined. His mother brought him meals that went cold on his desk. She knocked softly on his door, asking if he was okay, if he needed anything. Marcus barely heard her. Jordan texted 17 times. Marcus left him on read. By Sunday night, Marcus had filled 30 pages with information, plans, possibilities, the seeds of revenge, but he needed something more. Something bigger. Public humiliation wasn't enough. He needed to hurt them the way they'd hurt him. No, worse than that. He needed to destroy them. And slowly, terribly, a plan began to form. Monday morning arrived like a death sentence. Marcus's alarm went off at 6:30, the same time it always did, but he reached over and turned it off. No school today, not for him. He heard his mother getting ready for work, her footsteps soft in the hallway. She knocked gently on his door. Marcus, are you going to school today? No. A pause. Baby, you can't hide forever. I'm not hiding. I'm regrouping. Marcus, Mom, please, just go to work. I'll be fine. He wasn't fine. He was the opposite of fine. But he needed her to leave so he could continue his work. After his mother left, Marcus returned to his laptop. He'd barely made a dent in what he needed to do. The research was just the beginning. Now came the hard part, finding the right weapon. Tuesday passed the same way. And Wednesday. By Thursday, his mother was leaving pamphlets about therapy on his desk. Marcus threw them away. Jordan showed up Thursday evening, his mom having given him a key for emergencies. Dude, Jordan said, standing in Marcus's doorway. This is getting scary. You haven't been to school in a week. You're not answering texts. Your mom is freaking out. Marcus didn't look up from his laptop. I'm busy. Doing what? Marcus, you look terrible. When was the last time you showered? Or ate? I eat. Cold cereal doesn't count. Jordan came further into the room and gasped. What is all this? The walls of Marcus's room had transformed. Printed pages covered almost every inch of space. Photos, screenshots, timelines, maps. Red string connected various pieces of information like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. Research, Marcus said simply. Jordan picked up one of the pages from the desk. It was a detailed schedule of Isabella's daily routine, down to minute. Marcus, this is stalker behavior. This isn't healthy. They humiliated me in front of the entire world. Healthy went out the window. So what? You're going to do the same to them. Fight fire with fire. Man, that just makes you as bad as they are. Marcus finally looked at his friend, his eyes cold in a way Jordan had never seen before. I don't want to be as bad as them. I want to be worse. You don't mean that, don't I? Marcus stood up, and Jordan took an involuntary step back. They took everything from me, Jordan. My dignity, my hope, my future. Do you know what it's like to have hundreds of thousands of people laugh at the worst moment of your life? To become a meme, a cautionary tale. I know it's awful. You don't know. Marcus's voice rose, sharp and jagged. You don't know because it didn't happen to you. You get to go to school and have people see you as a person. I'm just the fat guy from that video. That's all I'll ever be to anyone who sees me now. Jordan set the paper down carefully. Marcus, revenge isn't going to fix this. It's just going to make everything worse. Then it gets worse. I don't care anymore. You do care. I know you do. The Marcus I know, the real Marcus, he wouldn't do this. He's better than this. The Marcus you knew is gone, Marcus said quietly. They killed him, and what's left is what they created. Jordan left that night looking shaken. Marcus returned to his work. By Friday, the school had called his house 6 times. His mother had scheduled an emergency meeting with his counselor for Monday. Marcus knew he'd have to go back eventually. But not yet, not until he was ready. The weekend passed in a blur. Marcus had stopped sleeping in any meaningful way. He'd take brief naps when his body forced him to, then wake up and continue his work. The revenge plan was taking shape, becoming clearer and more terrible with each passing hour. But something was missing. Marcus could feel it. He had information, he had anger, he had motivation. But he needed opportunity, he needed access, he needed a way into their lives that wouldn't raise suspicion. And he had no idea how to get it. Sunday evening, Marcus made himself presentable for the first time in a week. He showered, shaved the patchy facial hair that had started to grow, put on clean clothes. His mother nearly cried with relief when she saw him emerge from his room. "Are you ready to go back?" she asked hopefully. "Monday," Marcus confirmed. "I'll go back Monday." What he didn't tell her was that he wasn't going back to learn. He was going back to hunt. Monday morning, Marcus woke up at 5 a.m. He'd barely slept, but he was functioning on something beyond exhaustion. Purpose, maybe, or madness. The line between the two had become increasingly blurry. He stared at himself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. The face looking back was familiar but changed. Same brown eyes, same round face, same heavy body. But something in his expression had hardened. The softness that had once made him approachable was gone, replaced by something colder. Marcus had decided something during his week of isolation. If he was going to be the villain in everyone's story, he might as well embrace it. At 7:45, Marcus pulled into the school parking lot in his mom's old Honda. Students were streaming toward the building, clustered in their usual groups. Marcus saw several people glance at his car, then do a double take when they recognized who was driving. He watched as phones came out. They were already taking pictures, already posting. "He's back," would be trending in the school's social ecosystem before first period started. Marcus took a deep breath, grabbed his backpack, and stepped out of the car. The walk from the parking lot to the school entrance felt like walking through a gauntlet. Conversation stopped as he passed. People stared, some laughing behind their hands, others looking away in what might have been sympathy or embarrassment. "Dude's got guts, I'll give him that," Marcus heard someone mutter. "Or he's just dumb," someone else replied. Marcus kept his eyes forward, his face neutral. "Don't react, don't give them anything," that was his mantra. But then, as he reached the front steps, he heard it. "Marcus." Isabella's voice, bright and mocking, cut through the morning air. Marcus stopped, his hand on the door handle. "We missed you last week," she called out. She was standing with her usual group, Chloe at her side, Sarah just behind, and Ethan leaning casually against the railing like the king of the school. Dozens of students stopped to watch. Isabella smiled wide, performing for the audience. "You okay, Marcus? You kind of disappeared after the party. We were worried you couldn't handle a little joke." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Marcus turned slowly. For a split second, Isabella's smile faltered. Not because Marcus looked angry, but because he didn't look broken. He looked calm. "Morning, Isabella," Marcus said evenly. His voice didn't shake, it didn't crack, it didn't beg. That alone unsettled her. Ethan scoffed. "Wow, look who found his confidence. You here for round 2? More laughter. Marcus adjusted the strap of his backpack. "No, I'm here to finish senior year." Chloe laughed loudly. "Sure you are. Try not to fall in love again." Marcus nodded, as if considering her words. "I'll try." That was it. No explosion, no shouting, no tears. He opened the door and walked inside. And that's when the whispers really started. The first day back was torture, but different. People still stared, still whispered, still laughed. But Marcus noticed something new. Some people looked uncomfortable, some looked ashamed, some wouldn't meet his eyes at all. In English class, the teacher paused when Marcus walked in. The room went silent. "Marcus, welcome back," she said gently. He nodded and took his seat. No applause, no laughter, just tension. At lunch, Marcus didn't sit in the corner. He sat at an empty table in the middle of the cafeteria. Alone, on purpose. Phones came out, whispers flew, but Marcus ate his lunch. Slowly, calmly, like someone who wasn't afraid anymore. What no one knew, what no one could see, was that Marcus had already made his move. Not with violence, not with threats, but with truth. During his week off, Marcus hadn't just researched people. He'd archived evidence, screenshots of group chats, videos before they were deleted, private messages bragging about the bet, laughing voice notes, planning screenshots, confessions, everything. And on Monday night, from an anonymous account, it all went live. Not edited, not dramatized, just documented. A single post, a simple caption. This is what bullying looks like when the cameras are off. No insults, no commentary, no name calling, just proof. By Tuesday morning, the narrative had shifted. The same video that once humiliated Marcus was now stitched with context. People weren't laughing as much anymore. Comments changed. This is actually disgusting. They planned this. She wore the necklace afterward. How is this funny? Parents started tagging the school. The school started asking questions. By Wednesday, the administration announced an investigation. By Thursday, Isabella wasn't smiling. Ethan wasn't laughing. Chloe wasn't posting. By Friday, Isabella's parents were called in. So were Ethan's. So was Derek's. Suspensions followed. College scouts quietly backed away. Scholarships were reconsidered. Reputations cracked. Not destroyed, but damaged. And unlike Marcus's humiliation, this wasn't viral for fun. It was viral with consequences. One afternoon, as Marcus packed his bag, someone stood in front of his desk. Isabella. No audience, no friends, no camera, just her. This wasn't supposed to happen, she said quietly. Marcus looked up. Neither was what you did to me. Her eyes dropped. I didn't think it would go this far. Marcus stood. Neither did I, when I trusted you. She swallowed. Are you happy now? Marcus paused. The old him might have said yes. The broken him might have said nothing. But the healed version, the one still forming, answered honestly. No, he said, but I can finally breathe. He walked past her. By graduation, the video was old news. There was always something new online. Someone else's mistake. Someone else's pain. Marcus graduated quietly. He didn't become famous. He didn't become feared. But he became something far more dangerous to people like them. Untouchable. Because he learned a truth most never do. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers. Sometimes, it simply tells the truth and lets the world decide what to do with it. And sometimes, the most terrifying thing you can do to people who thrive on cruelty is survive them. If this story moved you, subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell us in the comments, was Marcus right to handle it this way, or should he have done more? The weight of revenge isn't about anger, it's about what you choose to carry, and what you finally put down.